Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about covalent bond from the chapter 4 Chemical Bonding and Molecular Structure, class 11 Chemistry. See, we have already discussed about Coulson-Lewis approach to chemical bonding, and now we are going to discuss that is available in the playlist, and now we are going to discuss about covalent bond. See, Langmuir, please excuse me for the pronunciation, an American chemist. In 1919, he refined Lewis postulations, which we have discussed in the previous video. He refined Lewis postulations and the concept of chemical bonding by abandoning the idea of stationary cubical arrangement of the octet. See, we have discussed about the cubical arrangement in the previous video. So, you see, Langmuir, he recognized that electrons are not fixed in a cubical shape but rather move freely around the nucleus. Langmuir, he introduced the covalent bond concept to describe the sharing of electron pairs between the atoms. Let us consider the formation of chlorine molecule. Chlorine molecule has two chlorine atoms. So, let us consider the formation of a chlorine molecule. See, chlorine atom, its atomic number is 17. So, electronic configuration 287. That is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. So, 1s2, so corresponding to n equal to 1, 2 electrons are there. Corresponding to n equal to 2, we have 8 electrons. Corresponding to n equal to 3, we have 7 electrons. Okay, see, this configuration can also be written as C1s2, 2s2, 2p6, that is atomic number 10, which is the atomic number of neon. Okay, then rest we have 3s2, 3p5. We can write the electronic configuration of chlorine like this as well. So anyway, you see, chlorine, its electronic configuration is 287. Outer shell has 7 electrons. So it is 1 electron short of the argon configuration. See, for argon, atomic number is 18. So, electronic configuration 288. So, the chlorine's electronic configuration, it is 1 electron short of the argon configuration. See, argon, it is a noble gas. It has 8 electrons in its outermost shell. So, it has a stable electronic configuration. Chlorine atom, when we consider one chlorine atom, its outer shell has only 7 electrons. So, it requires one more electron to attain octet or to attain a stable electronic configuration. So, when Cl2 molecule, chlorine molecule is formed, each chlorine atom has 1 electron less to become stable configuration. So, they share a pair of electrons between them. Each chlorine atom contributes 1 electron to the shared pair. That is, here you see we have a chlorine atom. These dots actually represent the outer shell electrons. So 7 outer shell electrons are there, valence electrons are there. We have another chlorine atom. It also has 7 valence electrons. So this chlorine atom requires one more electron to attain 8 electrons in the outer shell to attain the stable electronic configuration. Similarly, this chlorine atom also requires one more electron to attain stable electronic configuration. That is 8 electrons in its outer shell. So what they do when Cl2 molecule is formed, they share electrons each other. That is, this chlorine atom has 7 electrons around it. This chlorine atom has 7 electrons around it. So, what they do? See, this chlorine atom will share its 1 electron with the second chlorine atom. And this chlorine atom will share its 1 electron with this chlorine atom. Okay, so that when they share electrons, what happens? This chlorine atom now has 8 electrons in its valence shell, and this chlorine atom also has 8 electrons in its valence shell. Okay, one pair of electrons, that is 2 electrons are shared between these two chlorine atoms. 2 electrons means one pair of electrons are shared between these two chlorine atoms. Okay, see, one pair of electron is shared between these two chlorine atoms, no? So, this is actually represented with a single straight line between two chlorine atoms. That is, we can represent it like we have one chlorine atom here, we have another chlorine atom here. These two chlorine atoms share 2 electrons, that is one pair of electrons, that is a single straight line between these two chlorine atoms. Okay, so this figure actually shows the covalent bond between two chlorine atoms. See, covalent bond, it is a chemical bond formed between two atoms that share one or more pairs of electrons to achieve a stable electronic configuration. In this process, the outer shell electrons of each chlorine atom becomes 8. Okay, so you see the outer shell electron of this chlorine atom is now it is 8. Outer shell electron of this chlorine atom, it is also 8 now, and attains the nearest noble gas argon's electronic configuration. Okay, now these dots actually represent the electrons. Such structure is actually referred to as Lewis dot structures. Okay, these dots actually represents the electrons, and such a structure is referred to as Lewis dot structures. Now, let us consider the formation of a water molecule. See, when you consider water molecule, H2O molecule, there are two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. Okay, see, hydrogen atom, its atomic number is 1, so electronic configuration 1s1. And for the next hydrogen atom also 1s1. Oxygen atom, only one oxygen atom is here. For a single oxygen atom, its atomic number is 8. So electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. So this is like 2, 6. Okay, so you see, hydrogen atom, it has only one electron in its outer shell. So it is unstable. So it has a tendency to gain one more electron to achieve helium configuration. See, for helium, its atomic number is 2. That is, it is like 1s2 electronic configuration. So if hydrogen gets one more electron, it will attain the helium configuration. Helium is a stable gas. So when hydrogen attains or gains one more electron, it will attain a stable configuration just like that of helium. And oxygen, it has 6 electrons in its valence shell. So it has a tendency to gain 2 more electrons to achieve a stable configuration. Because for a stable configuration, the valence shell electrons number is, the required valence shell electrons number is 8. So oxygen has a tendency to attain or gain 2 more electrons to attain stable configuration. See, the formation of a covalent bond in water molecule is represented here. You see, oxygen has 6 electrons around it in its valence shell. Hydrogen has only 1 electron in its valence shell. In the H2O molecule, there are 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atoms. So what they do, when a H2O molecule is formed, oxygen atom shares its 2 electrons with the 2 hydrogen atoms. See, this oxygen atom shares this electron with this hydrogen atom and this electron with this hydrogen atom. So oxygen atom shares its 2 electrons with 2 hydrogen atoms, and each hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with the oxygen atom. This hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with the oxygen atom. This hydrogen atom also shares this electron with the oxygen atom. Okay, so shared electrons form covalent bonds. So here we have 2 covalent bonds. Okay, here we have 1 covalent bond here and another covalent bond here. Because shared electrons form covalent bonds, here there is a sharing of electrons. Here also there is a sharing of electrons. So 2 are there, no? So we have 2 covalent bonds. Okay, so you see, hydrogen atom has only 1 electron in its valence shell. So when they share electrons, now the hydrogen atom has 2 electrons in its valence shell. This hydrogen atom also has 2 electrons in its valence shell. So hydrogen atom attains a duplet of electrons, that is 2 electrons in its valence shell. And oxygen atom, it has actually 6 electrons in its valence shells. So when it shares 2 electrons from the 2 hydrogen atoms, this oxygen atom gains, you see, 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons now. So it also attains a stable electronic configuration. Now, let us consider the formation of a carbon tetrachloride molecule, that is CCl4 molecule. See, for carbon, its atomic number is 6, electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So 2, 2 plus 2, 4, 2, 4. For chlorine, its atomic number is 17. So electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. So 2, 8, 7. That is the electronic configuration for chlorine. So you see, this carbon atom, it has only 4 valence electrons. So it has a tendency to gain 4 more electrons to attain a stable electronic configuration or to get octet in its outer shell. And this chlorine atom has 7 electrons in its valence shell, so it has a tendency to gain one more electron, so that its outermost shell electron will become 8 and it will gain a stable electronic configuration. So when the CCl4 molecule is formed, see, this is how the CCl4 molecule is formed. You see, carbon has 4 valence electrons. Okay, chlorine has 7. Each chlorine atom has 7. So in the CCl4 molecule, there is 1 carbon atom, 4 chlorine atoms. So what they do? See, this carbon atom will share its 1 electron with this chlorine atom, 1 electron with this chlorine atom, 1 electron with this chlorine atom, and 1 electron with this chlorine atom. And this chlorine atom will share its 1 electron with the carbon atom, its 1 electron with the carbon atom, its 1 electron with the carbon atom, and its 1 electron with the carbon atom. So when they share electrons, what happens? You see, now this carbon atom has 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons in its valence shell. This chlorine atom also has 8 electrons in its valence shell. This chlorine atom also has 8 electrons in its valence shells. So each of the 4 chlorine atoms along with the carbon atom attains octet of electrons. Octet of electrons means 8 electrons in its outermost shell. Now you see, in water molecule, the two atoms, I mean the hydrogen and oxygen atoms, they share 1 electron pair, that is 2 electrons. Similarly, this oxygen atom and this hydrogen atom, they also share 1 pair of electrons or 2 electrons. So they are said to be joined by a single covalent bond. Okay, that is in water molecule, the hydrogen atoms and the oxygen atoms, they share actually 1 pair of electrons. The 2 atoms share 1 pair of electrons between them. These 2 atoms also share 1 pair of electrons between them. So 1 pair of electrons or 2 electrons are shared between these 2 atoms. So they are said to be joined by a single covalent bond. And you see, the single covalent bond, it is actually represented represented by a single line between the atoms, or you can use a pair of dots between the atoms. So here you see, we have the oxygen atom, we have the hydrogen, 2 hydrogen atoms. Okay, this hydrogen atom and this oxygen atom shares 2 electrons or 1 pair of electrons, so 1 single bond between them. This oxygen atom and this hydrogen atom shares 2 electrons or 1 pair of electrons, so we can just join them by using another single bond between them. Okay, the actual structure of water molecules, it is actually like, you see, this is actually like this. Okay, there is an angle of 104.5 degree between them. So you see, in water molecule, the oxygen shares its 2 electrons with the hydrogen atoms, and each hydrogen atom shares 1 electron with the oxygen. Okay, oxygen shares its 2 electrons with the hydrogen atoms. Hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron. This hydrogen atom will share 1 electron. This hydrogen atom also shares its 1 electron. Okay, so due to this unequal electron sharing, it has a bend shape or V shape like this. The water molecule has a bend shape like this due to unequal electron sharing. Okay. Now, let us consider the case of carbon dioxide molecule, CO2 molecule. So, you see, carbon has atomic number 6, so electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p2, so 2, 4. Oxygen has atomic number 8, so electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p4, that is 2, 6. Okay, so you see, this carbon requires 4 electrons to complete 8 electrons or to get 8 electrons in the outer shell. Oxygen requires 2 electrons to make its outer electronic configuration to 8. That is to become stable electronic configuration. So carbon requires 4 more electrons and oxygen requires 2 electrons to make its outer shell electronic configuration into 8. I mean number of electrons into 8. So the formation of covalent bond between these carbon and oxygen molecules, that is actually represented here. See, carbon has valence electrons 4, oxygen has 2, 4, 6. This oxygen also has 2, 4, 6. 6 electrons in its outer shell. Okay, so when a carbon dioxide molecule, CO2 molecule is formed, these atoms actually share their electrons between each other. So you see, this carbon shares its 2 electrons with this oxygen atom, and the same carbon shares another 2 electrons with this oxygen atom. Okay, so that each oxygen atom achieve octet or 8 electrons in its outer shell. Because it had 6 already, then carbon shares its 2 with this oxygen atom, so that it gains it gains 2 electrons, 2 more electrons. So its electronic configuration, outer shell electron number becomes 8. Okay, 6 plus 2, 8. Similarly for this oxygen as well. Okay, now you see this oxygen shares its 2 electrons with this carbon atom, and this oxygen shares its 2 electrons with this carbon atom. So when you consider this carbon atom, it now has 4 plus 4, 8 electrons. So carbon atom also achieves octet or 8 electrons in the outer shell. Okay, so here you see 4 electrons. This oxygen and this carbon shares 4 electrons between them, or 2 pairs of electrons between them. Similarly, this carbon and this oxygen shares 4 electrons between them, or 2 pairs of electrons between them. Okay, so if 2 atoms share 2 pairs of electrons or 4 electrons, the covalent bond formed between them is called double bond. If only one pair of electron is shared, that is single bond. Here 2 pairs of electrons. Here also 2 pairs of electrons are shared. So such a covalent bond formed is called as double bond. This double bond is usually represented by 2 lines like this between the atoms, or you can use 2 pairs of dots, that is 4 dots between the 2 atoms. So this can actually be represented like this. We have the carbon atom here. Okay, we have the oxygen atom here. We have the oxygen atom here. 2 pairs of electrons are shared between these two. So 2 lines like this. 2 pairs of electrons are shared between these two. So 2 lines like this. Rest we have 4 electrons here. Here also we have 4 electrons here. Okay, so this actually represents the double bonds in carbon dioxide molecule. Now let us consider the ethene or ethylene molecule, C2H4 molecule. Okay, see, when you consider C2H4 molecule, see we have 2 carbon atoms. Okay, this carbon atom has 4 valence electrons. This carbon atom also has 4 valence electrons. There are 4 hydrogen molecules. Hydrogen requires 1 more electron to make its electronic configuration a stable electronic configuration. That is, when it achieves 1 more electron, it will attain the helium noble gas configuration. Okay, so this is how they share the electrons between them. You see, this carbon atom shares its 1 electron with this hydrogen atom. This hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with this carbon atom. This carbon atom shares its 1 electron with this hydrogen atom, and this hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with this carbon atom. Okay. Similarly, this carbon atom shares its 2 electrons with this carbon atom. Okay, this carbon atom also shares its 2 electrons with this carbon atom. This carbon atom shares its 1 electron with the hydrogen atom, and this hydrogen shares its 1 electron with this carbon atom. This carbon atom shares its 1 electron with this hydrogen atom, and this hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with this carbon atom. So sharing of electrons is actually taking place between them. So you see, when you consider these two, we have 2 carbon atoms. Okay, we have a hydrogen atom here, we have an hydrogen atom here, we have an hydrogen atom here, we have an hydrogen atom here. Between 2 carbon atoms, 2 pairs of electrons, 4 electrons are shared, or 2 pairs of electrons are shared. So there is a double bond between these 2 carbon atoms. This carbon atom and this hydrogen atom shares 1 pair of electrons, that is 2 electrons, so a single bond. This hydrogen atom and this carbon atom shares 2 electrons or 1 pair of electrons, so single bond. Here also single bond, here also single bond. Okay, so we can represent the double bond as well as the single bond, the double bond between the 2 carbon atoms and the single bond between the carbon and hydrogen atoms like this. Now let us consider a nitrogen molecule, N2 molecule. See, nitrogen has its atomic number 7. So electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p3, that is 2, 5. Okay, so you see one nitrogen atom has 5 valence electrons. This nitrogen atom also has 5 valence electrons. So when a nitrogen molecule is, N2 molecule is formed, see, this nitrogen atom has 5 electrons, green colored one. Okay, 5 electrons in the outermost shell. So it requires 3 more electrons to achieve a stable electronic configuration. Similarly, this nitrogen also has 5 electrons in its outer shell. So it also requires 3 more electrons to achieve a stable electronic configuration. So what they do? They share 3 plus 3 electrons each other. This nitrogen atom shares its 3 electrons with this nitrogen atom so that it achieves 2 plus 3 plus 3, total 8 electrons in its outer shell. Similarly, this nitrogen atom shares its 3 electrons with this nitrogen atom so that it also achieves 2 plus 3 plus 3, 8 electrons in its outer shell. Okay, so a stable electronic configuration would be formed. This nitrogen molecule becomes, a stable one. So you see, here we have one nitrogen atom, here we have one nitrogen atom. 3 pairs of electrons, right? 3 pairs of electrons are shared, or 6 electrons, or 3 pairs, 1 pair means 2. Okay, so 3 pairs of electrons are shared between 2 nitrogen atoms. So a triple bond. Okay, if then you see thus we have 2 atoms here, we have 2 atoms here. So you see 3 pairs of electrons or 6 electrons are shared between these 2 nitrogen atoms. If 2 atoms share 3 pairs of electrons, okay, if 2 atoms share 3 pairs of electrons, the covalent bond between them is actually called as triple bond. So you see a triple bond is usually represented like this, 3 lines like this, or you can use 3 pairs of dots like this between the 2 atoms. Okay. Now you see, let us consider an ethyne molecule, C2H2 molecule. See, there are 2 carbon atoms. This carbon atom has 4 valence electrons. This carbon atom also has 4 valence electrons. There are 2 hydrogen atoms. This hydrogen atom has 1 valence electron. This hydrogen atom has 1 valence electron. So when this C2H2 molecule is formed, you see this hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with this carbon atom. This hydrogen atom shares its 1 electron with this carbon atom. This carbon atom shares its 1 electron with this hydrogen atom. This carbon atom shares its 1 electron with this hydrogen atom. And this carbon atom shares its 3 electrons with this carbon atom. This carbon atom shares its 3 electrons with this carbon atom. So overall, when we look at it, you see this hydrogen atom now has 2 electrons in its outer shell. This hydrogen atom also has 2 electrons in its outer shell. When you consider this carbon atom, you see 3 plus 3 plus 2, 8 electrons in its outer shell. Similarly, it also has 8 electrons, 3 plus 3 plus 2, 8 electrons in its outer shell. So you see, we have one hydrogen atom here, one carbon atom here, one carbon atom here, and another hydrogen atom here. Okay, you see one pair of electrons is shared between these two, a single bond. 3 pairs of electrons are shared between these two, so a triple bond. 1 pair of electrons is shared between these two, so a single bond. Okay. So in this video, we have discussed about the covalent bond, we have discussed about the single bond, double bond.